So I thought about the way that I could transmit information about this particular unit the best. There's a lot of things that you have to know. One of the largest lists that you'll have is the body regions. You have to know the specific name for the body regions. It's not enough to just say the wrist. You have to know what the body region of the wrist is called, for example. This is the way that we can easily transmit information between health professionals and say, this person has an injury in such and such a region, and everybody will know what you're talking about. My suggestion would be to go through this video, and each time I name a body region, pause the video and ask yourself, do I know what that body region is? And then when you play the video right away, I'll say what that body region is. I'll like a little bit of a pause. I'll say what the body region is, what it actually, like in a practical sense, pertains to, and then I will write it for you. Now I got these sheets simply by copying and pasting some of the lab figures and pasting them into a Word document and then printing them out. We start with the femoral region or femoral region. This pertains to the femur, which is the largest bone of your body, and it is the bone located in your thigh. Next, we have the coxal region. This pertains to a joint called the coxa. Your hip joint is called the coxa. Next, we have the nasal region, which pertains to the nose. Next, we have the buccal or buccal region. This pertains to the cheek. The mental region. This pertains to the chin. The oral region. The mouth, of course. Next is the cervical region. The cervical region pertains to the neck. Next is the acromial region. The acromial region pertains to the acromion, which is the tip of your shoulder blade, the tip of the scapula, which is kind of like your shoulder blade bone. Next, the mammary region. The mammary region pertains to the breast. The antebrachial region. The antebrachial region is the lower arm. Next is the carpal region. The carpal region is named after the bones in your wrist, the carpal bones. Next, we have the palmar region. As you can imagine, it pertains to the palm. And next we have the digital region. The digital region can also be called the phalangeal region. This actually is the fingers and the toes, which would be the fingers and the toes. They're your digits. So the digital region, fingers and toes. Next up we have the genital region. You probably know where this one is. Next we're going to write down the inguinal region. The inguinal region pertains to the groin. All right, now we have the frontal region. The frontal region pertains to the forehead. There's a frontal bone in there. It's a pretty prominent bone. Next, be careful with this one, the orbital region. The orbital region pertains to the eyes. Oftentimes students mistake this. They'll use the word optic. I don't think that's usually the word that is used for this. It would be orbital. Orbital pertains to the bones that kind of like the cavity that the eyeball rests in. Now we have the sternal region, named for the sternum, your breastbone, the bone that goes right down the center of your chest. After that, we have the pectoral region, which is actually fairly well known. There's well-known muscles there called the pecs, the pectoralis muscles. Next, we have the umbilical region. It pertains to the belly button. Next, patellar region, your kneecap. The next term is going to be the axillary region. This pertains to your underarm, your armpit region. The brachial region is a super important one. It's going to come up several times in the future. It pertains to the upper arm, or what some text would label as the arm. Next, the antecubital region, very important in a clinical sense. If you ever administer an IV to somebody, it is very likely you'll be administering that IV into the antecubital region. It is the front of the elbow. Next is the abdominal region, where you'd find your abdominal muscles. Next is the pedal region, pertaining to the feet. Next is the crural region. The crural region pertains to the front of the lower leg, the front of the lower leg. Next, the tarsal region. The tarsal region pertains to the ankle bones. There are tarsal bones in that region. And lastly, the cranial or cephalic region pertains to the head as a whole. Oops, the actual answers are right on that sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and fold the answers away. So we're only working with the parts that are, it's an unlabeled figure this way. This is the posterior perspective of the human body. We were just looking at the anterior perspective, which is the front-on perspective, which is a typical way that we view the human body. But it's also helpful sometimes to be able to see the posterior or back side perspective. We're going to begin with the occipital region, the back of the head. There's a bone in this region called the occipital bone. There's also a region of the brain called the occipital lobe. Next, we have the otic or otic region, which pertains to the ears. Next, we have the femoral region. You might remember this from the anterior perspective. Femoral refers to the femur, the largest bone of the body, which is the thigh bone. The popliteal region, this is the back of the knee. Remember, the front of the knee was called the patellar region. The back of the knee is called the popliteal region. Next, we have the sural region. The sural region refers to the back of the lower leg, very specific. Remember that the front of the lower leg is called the crural region. The back of the lower leg is called the sural region. Crural, sural. Remember, patellar for the front of the knee, popliteal for the back of the knee, crural for the front of the lower leg, and sural for the back of the lower leg. Moving up toward the top, we're going to again point out the acromial region. The acromial region was also found on the anterior perspective. This is the tip of the shoulder, the acromion process of the scapula. Next, we're going to have the vertebral region or the vertebral region. Now, this is probably a structure that you've heard of before. The vertebra make up the bones of your spine, the spinal column. Next up is the brachial region. You may recall this from the front side. From the anterior perspective, the brachial region refers to the upper arm or the arm. The next structure we're filling in is going to be the sacral region. The sacral region refers to the sacrum, which is a bone in the lower part of your spinal column. Next is your gluteal region or your gluteal region, which refers to the gluteus maximus and the gluteus medius and the gluteus minimus, three large muscles that are in your bottom. The next portion is the perineal region or the perineal region. This refers to the perineum, which is basically the bottom side of your genitalial region. Next is the olecramal region, olecramal. This is the back of the elbow. Remember, the front of the elbow is called the antecubital region. Olecramal is the back. Antecubital, olecramal. Antecubital, olecramal. Now there is plantar. Plantar refers to the bottom of the foot. Next up is calcaneal. The calcaneal region refers to the heel of the foot. There's a bone inside of there called the calcaneus. Next is the lumbar region. The lumbar region refers to the lower part, the lower part of the spinal column and on either side of it. So there are vertebrae in there, there are bones in there called the lumbar vertebrae, and then this also refers to the region on either side of that part. This is a famous region. This is a well-known region because it is a part of the body that oftentimes becomes sore, especially upon doing hard work that requires bending over or lifting heavy things, or even standing on your feet for a long period of time. And the last thing we're going to label here is the dorsum itself. This is the dorsal region. The term dorsal means toward the spine. It actually kind of refers to the entire back. So the dorsal region refers to the dorsum.